Quick update on the Bry Box of Mystery. We are over 75% sold out as of Sunday, September 10th. All of the details are live now over at bryscomics.com. Somebody is walking away with one of these two bad boys for only $250. So many other amazing grails available. Even if you don't win a grand prize, you're guaranteed two awesome collectibles. Once again, all the details are over at bryscomics.com, and enjoy today's show. Welcome back to Bry's Comics. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are continuing our video series here of highly collectible comics. These are books that when they hit my website, they instantly sell if they're listed at a reasonable price. A really cool list of books and a lot of interesting topics of conversation to consider to make yourself a wiser collector. I think the golden rule with comic book collecting is collect what you love. Absolutely. But it definitely doesn't hurt to consider all different aspects of collecting, to have a direction for your collection, and to be thinking about these concepts that we're going to talk about in this video, which are what makes a comic book highly collectible. Before we hop too far into it, I want to remind you we have a monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, and like, and you're entered to win a free slab. And head over to bryscomics.com to sign up for the newsletter. You get entered to win a free slab each and every month, and you also get first access to new collections, new inventory when it comes through the shop, brand new mystery box launching soon that you're not going to want to miss, and use code COLLECT10 for 10% off all in-stock items at bryscomics.com. And lastly, follow me over on Whatnot. There's a link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase. We have a bunch of awesome new shows scheduled, slab shows, raw book shows. We're doing slab giveaways galore at every single show, and $1 starts on tons of awesome books, and I really hope to see you there. If not, for anything else, just come by and hang out on a Friday night. We're having a ton of fun over there, and I'd love for you to join us. So I want to talk a little bit about modern comics, because modern comics are a highly controversial subject in the comic collecting community. There's definitely a lot of collectors that quote unquote hate on modern comics, and I think it's important to understand why they hate them, because there is some valid points that we need to consider with modern comics and be aware of. And I think the main offender is that, modern comics are highly volatile. They lack the tried and trueness, if that's a word, of vintage comics. They lack the test of time. And that's the biggest factor that you need to be aware of, is if you're going to shell out big money, because sometimes these modern comics go for huge money, especially when they first become hot, consider time and how is time going to impact the effect of comics. But here we are at the state of the market today, where prices have really mellowed out. And I think that one of the things that I love about modern comics is there's a relatively low entry point for them compared to vintage key issue comics. And so, if you get to a point where you decide you need to move on from these books, or you're just, want to collect other things, the books on this list will be highly liquid. You won't have a hard time selling these books at all. So the low entry point, high liquidity of the books on this list, I think makes them highly collectible. And let's talk about some more nuanced points regarding that. Let's hop into the computer and take a look at this list. Starting off the list, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 4 from 2014. This is a book that every single time it comes through the shop, it doesn't last more than a few hours if it's reasonably priced. This is the first full appearance of Silk, a Korean-American girl who was bitten by the same radioactive spider as Peter Parker. Here we have all kinds of information about a TV series in the works for Amazon with executive producers and showrunners, and that's all fine and dandy. But the reason that this made the list, in addition to it instantly selling when it hits my site, is we're looking at the collectability of these comics. And this video series was inspired by tcgfish.com right here, who provides a collectability score for Pokemon cards. And they look at the popularity, the liquidity, the affordability, the grade difficulty, and whether or not the card is vintage. Some of this doesn't translate perfectly to comics, but a lot of it does. And it provides a score, a collectability score for that book. And what I love about Silk and the character of Silk is that the popularity and liquidity of this book is through the chart. People have responded so well to the comic book versions of Silk and all of the different series and the art associated with. And when you look at this book long term, I mean, sure, in the next year or two, we're going to have, some shows and possibly movies and stuff. But think about 10 years, 20 years. As long as this character sticks around and is still building momentum and establishing itself in the Amazing Spider-Man universe, it's going to just continue to grow in value. And one of the things that you have to look at with the collectability score is the grade difficulty and things like, the census. And so if we look over here at the CGC census for this book, we can see that there are almost 10,000 copies on the census. And this number will grow. There will be more copies that come to market. But right now we're sitting right around 10,000 total copies, 7,000 of which are 9.8s. 13 9.9s, which interestingly enough, we had what I believe is the first sale for a 9.9 just recently here for $3,840, which I think is actually a fair price for this book considering what it is, who this character is, and that there's only 13 9.9s compared to 7,000 9.8s. I mean, when you look at this proportionally, $3,000 seems like a bargain. I may have thrown my hat in the ring at a price like that. You do want to be really careful with modern 9.9s and 10s for CGC because they use the same case as they do for, a 25-cent book, and they can move a little bit inside of the inner well. And so if it's a 9.9 or a 10 and it moved and it has a bent corner or something, it's no longer 9.9. So just be really careful when you buy any 9.9 for that matter, that it doesn't have slab damage in the case. But looking at the sales chart for this here, you can see that it's pretty much leveled off around the $200 range. Some outliers closer to $300, but consistently over $200 and also consistently under. As you can see, I mean, there are good deals to be had. I think this 167 was probably one of the lowest in a long time. So set a search, auction search for this book. It comes up all the time because of how many copies there are. There are also some other options as far as variants for this book. There's 5 variants. There's the 1 in 10, which is not all that rare. There's a lot of 1 in 10s. It's only a 1 in 10, but it definitely demands a premium. And then there's these J. Scott Campbell variants, which, man, talk about a good comic to pick to do an exclusive for. I mean, it's got Black Cat on the cover. I just wonder why J. Scott Campbell decided to do an exclusive for this and to have 3 different versions of it. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't feature Silk on the cover, so he may not have even known that this was going to be a key issue. May have just decided, I want to do a Black Hat cover, and of course it'll sell out because I'm J. Scott Campbell and I can do it on Amazing Spider-Man 4. But lucky for him, it was just a crazy, awesome pick of a book to do it on. So the Campbell variant cover here you can see some sneaky sales, like consistently up around $500, $600, $700 for this book, because it is way more rare to find this book listed for a reasonable price. And here's a sneaky one from My Comic Shop that ended low at auction. Make sure you keep My Comic Shop on your list of go-to places to check, especially for stuff like this that could potentially slip through the cracks. Next on the list, we have Captain America number 6. This is the first full appearance of Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier. And if we look at the TCG collectability score thing, popularity is a big factor on this. And this is probably the least popular of all the books on this list. And I think that it's interesting because this character is already established in the MCU. It's not going anywhere. He's coming up in future projects. He'll be with us in the MCU for the foreseeable future. And I think that it's really interesting that this book has kind of fallen off on the popularity scale. I mean, it's not one that sells within a few hours of being listed, but it always sells within a day or two. If it's anywhere near FMV, someone's like, oh yeah, I'll pick this up, especially at that price. And we look at the prices here, and we're showing pretty consistent around that 175 range here. Every once in a while, you get a 150. I saw one sell on Whatnot for $88 for a 9.8. So, keep your eyes out for really good deals on this book. They are out there, and there is a couple different variants. And what's interesting about this is there are two very similar covers. So here's the variant cover, and this is the first cover appearance of Bucky Barnes as a Winter Soldier. So he doesn't appear on this one. This is the newsstand edition, which if you can find one, I think that's a great investment, a newsstand 9.8 of this book, because it's just incredibly rare. It's going to be off people's radar. You might be able to find one listed, because here's what it looks like, the barcode right here. This is the newsstand edition, and the regular edition says the words direct edition above it. But I think the clear winner for this book is the variant cover, because it has Bucky Barnes on the cover. It's very similar. And if we look at the CGC census, there's 908 of the cover A's, and there's 585 9.8s of the variant cover. So the fact that it is almost twice as rare, well, not quite twice as rare, 1,400 total copies compared to 2,000, but definitely way more rare for the variant. It's about the same price, and it has the first cover appearance of Bucky Barnes. Here we see on GPA the variant edition selling for right around the same mark of $175. So I think that that is the clear winner if you have your choice. Especially, it looks like, over time it was more valuable, but it seems like in recent months it's been more around the same price as the cover A. Next on the list, we have Saga Number 1. This is the premiere issue of the Eisner Award-winning space epic, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. Definitely has reached icon status as far as the cover here. It's the first appearance of Marco and Alana, lovers from opposing sides of two alien races at war. First appearance of the Will and Lying Cat, and first appearance of Prince Robot the Fourth. So what's surprising to me about this book is if you look at the CGC census, there are 3,455 total copies on the census, or total 9.8s on the census, 5,300 total copies on the census. Way more than even the Winter Soldier. And Winter Soldier is in the MCU, and yet this book has more copies on the census, and it's more expensive. And so if we go back to the collectability scale here, that would indicate that the popularity of Saga is actually more than the first appearance of the Winter Soldier, because Saga is selling for more money and there's more of them. So it's the only thing that makes sense. And that's just fascinating to me. But I think it checks out, the popularity of the character Winter Soldier. He's cool. People like him, but they're not going to, mortgage their house to go buy his first appearance. If we look at the GP analysis for sales of this book, it has really dipped in this recent month here. You see sales under $300, consistent sales for Saga for up around the $300 to $400 range. And that to me, is an indication that if you can get it for under $300, I think that's a great price and a great investment. And it just shows the strength of this book, because if we even come over to eBay and look at Saga Number 1 9.8, there's a lot of stuff that comes up because there's multiple printings and, eBay search results. But there's only maybe a couple dozen, maybe 50 at the most, like if you were to go through every single one and pull out just the first print cover A's. But a lot of them you'll see listed like this, which is a make me sell it, I don't really want to sell it price. I mean, this guy knows he's not going to get $1,100, but that's the only price that he'd be willing to accept. Well, he does have best offer. Maybe this is one of those weirdos that lists it for $1,100 and then accepts a best offer of $300. I don't know. But the point is that people aren't, here's another one, $1,000. People just aren't willing to let go of this book for a reasonable price with the buy it now prices. So you can find them at auction for much better prices. But I think the reason for this is that people that are buying this book or have money invested in this book are collectors. They're not necessarily speculating on the series of Saga. They love the series. They want to have the first issue, cover A, and they're collecting it because they love it, which is different than people collecting it for an opportunity to flip. So it helps the overall collectability of the book when you have such a strong fan base like that. So my recommendation for Saga, if you are considering purchasing it, is read it. Pick up a trade paperback. See if you love the series. See if you can be one of the people who just wants to own it because they love the series and join them in the I don't want to sell it prices, and have that be the reason that you buy this book. Not because you want to flip it, but because you love it. And this might be a good opportunity to find a new series that you enjoy. Something is Killing the Children, number 1. I had to put this book on the list because this is an instant sell when it hits my site for any reasonable price. It has absolutely reached icon status with the cover art. It's been homaged so many times, so much potential, for the show. Also some potential that the show isn't done well. I mean, it's Netflix. There's so many moving parts. But nonetheless, the series itself, the comic book series, is enough to buoy the prices of this book to where they are today. Even if no Netflix show comes to fruition, I think that this series will continue to perform well. It will definitely take a hit. If there was an announcement that says, the Netflix show is canceled, it will definitely take a hit, but it's not going to fall off the map. And here we see the last sale is $570, consistently selling for around $600 to $700. But, keep this one on your radar, set those alerts for auctions and stuff here. You can see them in the $500 range. Just with the collectability score, let's take a look at the CGC census for this, though, and see. So there's 2429 total 9.8s on the census, 34 total copies on the census. This book is a lot newer than Saga, and Saga has way more copies on the census. It always surprises me how long it takes people to get books graded. This number absolutely will grow. There will be more copies that come onto the census, but for right now, 2,500 total 9.8s, a lot of those signature series. Highly collectible book, definitely a high score on the collectability range. Last but not least, we have Star Wars Darth Vader number 3 from 2015. This is the first appearance of Dr. Aphra, the first appearance of 000, a droid, the first appearance of BT-1, an assassin droid. And Dr. Aphra is arguably the biggest off-screen star for Star Wars. And it's only a matter of time before she becomes a big on-screen star. So I think that this book, the popularity of this book based on the comic book character alone has brought this book to some crazy high prices back in the boom. But look at how consistent this is on the correction line. I mean, that is an impressive graph compared to some other things that we've seen in the comic book market correction. Most recent sale was $223. You could see it dip under $200 on occasion, so there are good deals to be had. And if we look at the CGC census, 4,406 total 9.8s compared to 8,000 total copies on the census. So I would, stick with that 9.8 range. If you're looking for a more affordable option, there are multiple printings of this, and all of them are collectible. And so the second print has a red background, the third print has a green background, and the fourth print has a purple background. And I think this purple one is the leader as far as value. And I think it's just because people like the purple. Sometimes it doesn't have to do with print counts and stuff like that. A lot of times it just has to do with how the book looks. We also have the 1 in 25, which is extremely pricey, and all around just a good investment, in my opinion, because of the future potential of this book and the current popularity. And so, as valid as the points are for the criticisms of modern comics, I think it's really important to recognize and appreciate how important modern comics are to the overall health of the comic book collecting community. And we need modern comics to continue to garner new interest in the hobby of comic book collecting, to keep the interest of these tried and true characters alive. Even though we do get maybe, 100 new indie titles to every one gem of an indie title, those numbers are arguable, but I think it's important, as long as we are gleaning and mining out of all of these new indie titles, that occasional gem, like your Something is Killing the Children's, your Sagas, your The Walking Deads. And it's really important that we keep the modern comic machine moving, because the hobby is dependent on it, and keeping interest renewed in the hobby is very important to the overall health of the hobby. Also, we need Amazing Spider-Man to continue. We need Detective Comics series to continue to keep those characters alive. And so, you know, as there are some pitfalls to modern comic collecting, as long as you're wise about it, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, you know, I think it's important to recognize the importance of it as well. So there you have it, folks. 5 books that instantly sell when they hit my website in the modern era. Stay tuned for a Silver Age edition of this little video series where we go over some Silver Age books that instantly sell. Don't forget, we always do that monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win a free slab. And head over to BryceComics.com, sign up for the newsletter. You're entered to win a free slab each and every month, and you get first access to new collections, new mystery boxes as they come through the shop. Follow me on Whatnot. We have a ton of awesome shows scheduled. You can use the link down in the description to just go bookmark the shows, or if you sign up for the first time, you get $15 towards your first purchase. I always have books in the Buy It Now for $15, so you can stop by and pick up a free book and get a shot at winning tons of other prizes. I'm always giving away big money on Whatnot, and we're always having big fun. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.